It just had to be done. Someone out there had to make a killer snowman movie, and Jack Frost is exactly that. At first they were going to try to make a serious snowman horror flick, but after several budget cuts and seeing the suit, they changed their minds to make it more of a comedy. I get it. How can you take this seriously?
Don't eat yellow snow.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way.
Jack Frost.
Jack Frost?
That's right.
It opens up with a guy telling his granddaughter a scary story. The story of Jack Frost.
He killed people. He'd stick knives in their faces and cut out their tummies, then stamp on their heads till their brains got all runny.
That's a bit harsh, don't you think? Jack was a serial killer who would go from town to town, offing people as he went. In total, he killed 38 people. But Jack got sloppy because he started putting body parts into pies. Now the cops knew where he worked, and they rushed over to the local pie factory and locked him up. Jack's sentenced to the electric chair at midnight on the dot. And that's where our story takes place, with Jack being transported to the penitentiary during a snowstorm. And wouldn't you know it, a genetic research truck is driving on the same road. The two collide, everyone goes spinning for a bit, then we see that Jack's escaped. He's just about to take out the cop when the genetic research truck explodes, covering Jack in acid that kills him. Honestly, there's some pretty good special effects here. It's real nasty. The snow absorbs his blood and starts to change, turning him into a snowman. Elsewhere, we meet the sheriff that arrested Jack, Sheriff Sam, and we can see that he's still traumatized by the whole ordeal.
I'll kill your family! I'll kill you! You're dead!
But now he assumes that's all behind him.
Okay.
In the morning, we meet Sheriff Sam's family, his son Ryan and his wife Ann. Ryan's making his dad a very special breakfast, chocolate oats, which I'm sure doesn't taste like straight antifreeze. Sam goes out on the town where everyone's getting ready for the big Snowman festival, which you would think would be important to the story, but it really isn't. We do meet a few other people here, mainly Jill Metzner, played by Shannon Elizabeth. Definitely the eye candy for the movie.
I mean, it's not supposed to be you.
Sam heads back to the station where the mood is somber.
Somebody die?
They go to check on the poor old schmuck who apparently had his neck snapped by something very soft, like a mitten.
Take your foot off the chair.
Back to Sam's house, where a mysterious snowman has been built. But it's missing the necessities, like a mouth and a carrot nose. Ryan's working on that when the local bullies show up to give him a hard time.
Are you deaf as well as butt ugly?
After a bit of back and forth, their leader, Billy Metzner, Jill's brother, knocks the head off of Ryan's snowman. Big mistake, because that's no Frosty, and he pushes him over where Billy gets his head sliced clean off.
I didn't do it.
Obviously, the family takes this pretty hard, and no one believes that a snowman did it. But that's all about to change, because now Jack Frost has his eyes on killing the entire Metzner family. Why? Who knows? The dad is kind of a jerk, so he has it coming. I mean, no one deserves to have an axe handle shoved down their throat, but he was a jerk. The mom, on the other hand, well, she didn't deserve this. At the station, Sam meets Agent Manners and Agent Stone, high-ups that know a little bit more about what's happening in this small town. For one thing, we learn that Jack can melt down to water, squeeze his way through basically any crack, and then refreeze. A pretty handy trick for a serial killer. The next victim is one of the deputies, who spots the snowman in the middle of the road. Before he knows it, Jack's in the driver's seat, and he's run over the poor cop. We pop over to Anne, who's back at home getting blankets. and it looks like she might be Jack's next victim. She spots some water pooling up on the floor, but lo and behold, it's just a leaky drain pipe. I only mention this because, and I'm no plumber, but a drain pipe would not be spewing water like that. Back to Sam and Manners, who are trying to come up with a plan of attack. And I'm sorry, cemetery? They misspelled cemetery? Come on, movie, do better. Well, if you find that hard to believe, you really won't understand this. Jill and her boyfriend, Tommy, sneak into the sheriff's house to do it. What kind of sense does that make? Why his house? And don't you think Jill has bigger things to worry about than getting laid? Her entire family was just murdered by a snowman, and all she can think about is getting the D? Well, there is a pretty funny scene where they take off all their clothes, but because it's winter, it takes like 5 minutes. I'll admit it got a chuckle. While Jill's getting ready, Tommy gets a surprise visitor. He ends up stabbing him with an icicle.
It's a long drive!
So there's another power he has, a serial killer who can basically make meltable knives. That must be handy. Once Tommy's put out, now it's Jill's turn, and she gets it pretty bad. She sees a tub full of water and assumes her boyfriend drew her a bath, but really it's just melted Jack. This is gonna get weird, isn't it? She washes herself with Jack for a bit, and then eventually he freezes the water and knocks her out until she's dead. Back to the station, where Sam's pretty confused, but he eventually learns that his arch-enemy's back in town. Worse yet, he's at the station.
Oh, God.
They lock themselves away and start spraying a bunch of aerosol cans. Frosty's on his way, and they all rush out the window. Once they get to safety, they open fire and blast Jack Frost to Kingdom Come. But it won't be that easy. Although Jack's pretty messed up, he's still alive. Hey, at least the entire town saw him, and they know that yes, a serial killer snowman is on the attack. At this point, Sam's had enough about being in the dark about all this. He wants answers. Stone is some researcher that was working on a genetic acid that would allow humans to survive a global holocaust. The acid bonds to human DNA and could be resurfaced in the future. In this case, the snow stored Jack's DNA and his personality. This only proves that the soul exists and it's a chemical. So that's all fine and good, but how do you kill it? Their only idea at this point is sustained heat. Perhaps that could agitate the molecules, separating them. So now that's their plan, to lure Jack down into the church's furnace room. Armed with blow dryers, they force him into the basement and light the furnace. It looks like their plan's working. Sam celebrates the end of Jack Frost's reign, but hey, I wouldn't get too excited just yet.
Blow me.
Because he comes back and eats Agent Manners. But what he does to Stone is even worse. Jack goes inside of him, like Edgar from Men in Black.
Is that letter?
I guess he can't stay in there for too long, and he's puked out. Sam and Ryan hide out in the car, but we know that's really not a problem for Jack, who gets in through the vents. They make their escape, with Sam throwing some of those oats his son made for him earlier that day. And that's his weak point. No, it's not the oats, it's antifreeze. That's right, Ryan didn't want his dad to get cold, so he put antifreeze in his dad's oats.
Sorry.
What? Good thing he didn't eat any of them. So now they know they need a ton of antifreeze. And luckily, the local store owner, Paul, gathers up everything he has and fills his truck bed with it. Meanwhile, Sam's inside buying them some time. It looks like Jack's gonna take him out slowly, an icicle to the heart. But just in the nick of time, Paul shows up and Sam pushes the cold-hearted killer out of the window, falling into the truck full of antifreeze. Sam fights with him for a bit until he's completely melted. They pour it all back into the containers and bury the remains of the killer Snowman. And that was Jack Frost. I actually remember the VHS cover art for this movie more than the actual movie itself. It really catches the eye. There is another Jack Frost, but that is a wildly different movie. That one stars Michael Keaton and actually had a budget. It also came out in 1998, only 1 year after this Jack Frost. So growing up, I remember being pretty confused by all these Snowman movies. 97's Jack Frost is no masterpiece by any means, but it does have its moments and a ton of silly one-liners. You can tell the movie never took itself too seriously. The whole genetic research ploy on how Jack was turned into a snowman worked, but it was pretty lazy. I liked it better in Child's Play, where the soul transference was more of a black magic ritual. The acting was passable, but just barely, and the music was pretty good. I think they were trying to make this the ultimate Christmas horror movie tradition. You know, you gather up the family and watch Jack Frost on the first snowfall of the season. But honestly, I'll probably never watch it again. I give Jack Frost 1.5 antifreeze oats out of 4.
Look, Ma! I'm a Picasso!